Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. Let us allow the Greeks and Romans to give us a little lesson in sense perception. There are occasionally ninnies around who say, I saw an optical illusion, and therefore, since my eyes were tricked for a second, therefore I can know nothing about reality and my senses cut me off from reality. Well, how do you know it was an optical illusion then? If your senses are totally cutting you off from reality, then how do you know it was an optical illusion? So, optical illusions only make sense as a thing if we can normally access reality pretty well. We say, oh, wow, that tricked my eyes for a second, but now I see what it is. Right? Now, some people say, oh, that tricked my eyes for a second, my mind is blown, I can never access reality again because I made a mistake one time seeing something. I thought it was moving and it wasn't, or I thought it was a spider and it was just sitting there or something. And now my mind is blown and I can't think anymore. Well, that's a Kantian for you. For the rest of us, the senses link us to reality, and the Greeks and Romans understood this. And I have a little quote from this great book called The Creators, A History of Heroes of the Imagination by Daniel Borston. And we're on page 105. And it's talking about the architectural way that they made things. Quote, all the architectural members above the Capitol, above a thing that sits across two posts, all the architectural members above the Capitol had to be inclined towards the front of the building by 1/12th part of their own height, so 8%, 8.5%, or 8.25%, for otherwise they would not seem perpendicular. So there would be an optical illusion that would make them look at an angle unless you actually put them at an angle, in which case they would look squared. Now, the Parthenon is similar in some way. You'll walk through this metaphor with me real quick. It's similar in some way to like a Disney building. If you go to Disneyland and all the buildings are like squampus and the roof is like curved and everything's like bulged and cartoony, right? Not a straight line anywhere in a Disney building, right? That is what the Parthenon is like. It's like cartoonishly perfect. It's like they finessed the lines and made it beautiful. The way that they finessed the lines on a house for a Disney picture to make it look like a Disney cartoonish thing. Well, the Greeks did that with the Parthenon. There's not a single straight line in the Parthenon. It's all curves. It's all angles. Even it sits on massive stone steps. And from the front of the building to the back, those stone steps are curved slightly so as to present a straight line to the eye because of ocular deviation. It talks about the column thickness, and they had to swell the columns in a certain way because of, quote, ocular deception. A clumsy, awkward appearance will be presented to the beholder unless you do this to the columns. Now, are we connected to reality through the senses or not? If we're not connected to reality through the senses, then all of these learning about how our eyes work and ocular disproportionment, compensation of ocular deception, all of these concepts would be nowhere. Optical illusions, we wouldn't even know what an optical illusion was unless we had a good solid link with reality. And then once in a while we would say, oh, I saw something that wasn't real. Okay? So the Greeks and the Romans knew about it. We can know about it too. It does not have to blow our hippie noodle because our eyeballs have a nature. Sure, they see things by a nature. They don't see things omnipotently, right? When you see an optical illusion, that's your eyeballs and your brain making sense of the world as best it can. That is not your brain being cut off from the world and unable to make sense of anything at all, which is the claim they make. Because you can have an optical illusion, therefore you know nothing. See, that's Immanuel Kant's claim. Because your eyeballs see the world in a certain way, therefore your eyeballs are not really connected to the world. That's Immanuel Kant for you, ladies and gentlemen. The Greeks knew, the Romans knew that our senses are connected to reality. They didn't have any problems with it. We go around obsessing about optical illusions. How come we can't understand that our senses are connected to reality? Why do we think that they are an act of creation? Why don't we realize? And it's because of Immanuel Kant's philosophy. People can't realize this is not an act of creation, this is an act of perception. And we know that it's an act of perception because we can isolate the problems in it, like optical illusions. So we know it's an act of perception. They find one optical illusion and they throw the whole thing out. That's philosophy for you, ladies and gentlemen. You get your philosophy right, or you can't think straight.